All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for showing up for the session. Just want to say hi to everyone first. Andrew, good to see you. Bree, Rob. If you wouldn't mind turning on your cameras, that would be great. We're going to be answering a lot of questions, so want to make sure I understand if you're confused or need more, and the furrowing of the brows are usually helpful around that. So if you can be on camera, that'd be amazing. Let me just quickly make sure we have everyone here. Okay, great. This should be a fairly short session. I'm going to open up for open discussion, but luckily we went through the Zoom chats and we're looking for the questions people were asking. I apologize. I wasn't active in the chat, so I didn't really know when these questions were coming and directed at me, but we peeled some of them out. Some of you submitted some questions. Some of you have been emailing me questions, and I appreciate you guys being cool with us batching them all here so we can be more efficient with our time and answer them all for you. But I have let's see, I have a few slides to help us go through this. And like I said, at the end, we'll open it up just for open discussion. So this is our Q&A session. Okay, so here are a handful of questions that I'll start off with. Let me just run through them just in case this touches on things that you wanted to know about. So how relevant is Fundraise with Confidence to the pre-seed versus Series A? Other people were asking about different goals and different levels of progress. Is there a sweet spot? I'll talk about that. Someone wanted to know if they bought basic, could you upgrade later to essential or even the unicorn package? What is the schedule? What is the schedule? It was on the website, talked about it a little bit. I'll go into a little bit more detail here. A lot of people were curious about what it means to be raising right now and whether or not that's actually a good time to be in the program. And people wanted me to talk about ideal timing overall. We'll talk about this. And then an explicit question I was given, and also something that kind of sits underneath everyone's thoughts, is like, could I do this without Fundraise with Confidence? And we'll talk about that at the end. I'll even point you in the right direction around that as well. Okay, so the first one is pretty important because I think what ended up happening was we're like, okay, we don't have that much time. Let's put together a montage of all the testimonials we've gotten over the last couple of years, and we really focused on kind of these larger numbers, honestly, because I wanted to impress you guys. I wanted you guys to think that it was great and think about all the things that you could get to. And so we showed the 10 and the $20 million raises. But the 10 and the $20 million raises, we now realize might make it feel like, oh, we are only good for these people that are trying to raise these massive rounds. What happens if you're trying to raise smaller amounts? And so two things. I want to show you this just quick slide. We're like, let's just jam a bunch of things we can. This is definitely not all of our founders who have raised 2 million and under. But so just we'll talk through this a little bit. And then I reached out to a handful of them and I was like, I know this is last minute, but we're having this session tomorrow. Can I get you to come join us and talk about the program? And unfortunately, they're all venture-backed founders. So you can imagine how much time that they have. But two of them, both Simon from Elude and Tiffany Kelly, jumped on a 5-minute call with me. And I was just like, can I just ask you the question? Can you just answer in your own words? I'll record it and I'll share it there. So we'll have two kind of virtual talks from them to share. But Tiffany Kelly raised her first venture round after having essentially nothing, raised $2 million after our program. Nancy Sony and Pathmatch, she just closed her $2 million round by the skin of her teeth, right as the tech world and the investing world was crumbling. I think she closed that round out in like May, which was just amazing that she got that done. It's a Web3 HR platform. Lily Sparks did the program, raised $250,000 for her sex tech company, Afterglow. It's like, it's pretty cool. Afterglow, you should check that out. Al Simon, a consumer travel startup, essentially had raised a little bit of friends and family, did that badly, went through our program, raised $2 million. Shiloh Johnson, awesome founder. She took a Techstars check right after our program and then used our processes to go raise an amazing round from Craft Ventures afterwards, but her first check was really small. And then Khalif Brown with Reno also took in a Techstars check. If you guys are just joining, just so you know, here are some of the questions that we are going to answer first, and then we'll open it up for everyone. And if you can be on camera, that'd be amazing. I'd love to make sure I understand if you're understanding what's going on or if you're confused. So let me pop out of here really quickly and say hi. And then we just have 2 5-minute clips. They're conversations that I had. Sudarshan, you're in the program and you're here for Q&A. That's amazing. Anyways, we have just 2 5-minute conversations that we clipped together. I think it'll give you a sense for what people who hadn't really raised anything took away from the program. So, screen share. Here is Allison.
So I think high level, when I first went out for a
just make sure that you guys are hearing this.
So I think high level, when I first went out for initial fundraise, I was very, I would say, just kind of like basically spraying and praying. So what that meant was I was reaching out to any investor possible within my network to just get in front of them. And I think it was a good thing at first because, again, exposure is just good exposure. But I think what your class specifically has taught me is that you need to be extremely deliberate about how you not only just reach out to investors, but how you get that first introduction. And then the second component, which I think is actually the biggest piece, and I think we've discussed this on a few different occasions, but just the idea of really like switching the script of the investor psychology. That's something that as a first-time founder, I had zero understanding of really what the back and forth and kind of like the tit for tat, if that makes sense. That's like core basics basically when going out for fundraise. But you really need to understand that investor psychology because unless you understand the investor psychology, you're not at basically same playing fields, right? And so when we went out for kind of so the pre-seed, I would call it, we went out without kind of the, let's call it the Jason Ye mentality. And then when we went out for our seed raise, we were able to compress basically not only just the time frame, but the deliberateness, right? Like what type of documents you start sharing with people, how you should start reaching back out, the time frames, and in terms of expectations and things like that, were a lot more clearer on the other side of your course.
That's awesome. By the way, I'm so glad that you brought up the investor psychology. My team and I talk about this all the time. There are things that founders expect to need to learn and expect to need to practice. So the things that are most highly requested are pitch deck review. How do I create a great deck? Pitch practice, like how do I present? And those are definitely very important, but no one will ever say like, oh, what I need to know? I need to know what the mindset is of the buyer. I need to know investor psychology. And I always talk about this idea of like, we need to sell people what they want because they need to hear the things that they want, but we also need to bundle that with what they need. We need to give them what they need.
Going through your workshop gave a lot more power back to me as a founder because what I learned is like, they want to invest in great companies, in good teams, and in good founders. And you need to have that psychology in order to kind of I would say enter into the conversation, being a little bit more sleight of hand, right?
And then with the last minute, just remind us coming out of the program, what did you end up setting up? How did you execute it? And what was the eventual outcome?
Yeah, right after going through the course, we basically kicked off our seed round of $3 million, of which we were able to deliver that and basically close on all of that 3 million about 2.5 months after your workshop. And I'd say not only was the workshop deliberate in getting that kind of accelerated, but I'm telling you the feedback that I received not only from the investors, but through our advisor network as well, that we actually ran a process that worked and that was deliberate and that we were able to execute on. And everything was, again, like I would say like a very clear path, right? So before we were kind of like looking at the end of the road and not knowing which way to turn and not knowing which way to kind of like navigate. I think going through your course, we were kind of like dealt different cards that we knew we were going to see, and when we were able to actually go through that, it was kind of liberating, right? It was like, oh, I know how to handle this. Let me go through this and knock this out of the park. Not like, oh, great, I get a question and I have no idea how to answer this. You kind of walk through a lot of those scenarios through your workshop, which was incredibly valuable.
Yeah, amazing. I'm in it. Prize pupil, great student. I pride myself on putting together tactical things for people to follow, but also making sure that, knowing that I'm not going to be right next to you, Al, whenever you go through things, and like being able to whisper to you exactly what to do, like making sure that you learn the first principles so that like when it's slightly different and it's slightly off, like you can creatively problem solve. That's what we were trying to get to. And it's amazing what you were able to accomplish.
The final thing that I do want to actually kind of instill with anybody that's on the fence of, maybe going through your workshop as a first-time founder or just any general founder is I think founders have this inherent feeling of like, I know best for my business. And that's always great because you have the drive, you have the passion, and you're able to kind of go through and execute. I think when it comes to fundraising, there's so many question marks, regardless of if you've raised before or about to fundraise. And I think like having somebody like yourself and the workshop to go through, it's always a benefit add-on. So even if you have raised a small amount, whether let's say from angels or smaller funds, when you're trying to go out for larger funds, you need to have that basic, as you said, kind of first principles approach. And there's always room to grow. I think again, as founders, like we like to pride ourselves as we may know best, but I think in this particular case, there's so much more to learn when it comes to fundraising, and having somebody like yourself and going through this workshop really helped shine a lot of light into that.
Dude, Al, you're the best, man. I
Yep.
have an amazing wedding. Sorry, amazing
Honeymoon yet?
2 weeks.
Hey, you muted, Jason.
Jonathan, you're the best. Yeah, so that was actually last night. And he was like, I gotta do this right now if you want to do this, because I'm leaving for my honeymoon tomorrow. So that was awesome. One other conversation happened this morning with Tiffany Kelly. I don't want to play it. Not great audio, but she said a lot of things I think are worth hearing. So we'll go through that really quickly. And get back to questions.
Yeah, I had zero background with fundraising before FWC. It was kind of funny. As soon as I had the idea for Curastory, I immediately was like, okay, now we need capital. I was going to these meetings with no pitch deck. And then I got to one of the VCs in the Black Book, and she's like, let me stop you here. Let me be the last person you pitched. Yeah, I honestly gave up on trying to raise VC for pre-seed. And then I was like, okay, we need like seed capital now. I'm not going through this again. Like I'm not going through a process and having it not bear fruit again. So I really just need to be set up for success. And then that's when we got connected. I don't know how, but it was just like, you don't know what you don't know. And so I'm a data scientist by trade, and that's like, I need all the data points. Like I need as much information as possible to be able to really just raise and doing it correctly.
Tell me a little bit about how FWC impacted the way you prepared for your fundraise. That's where we'll start.
Yeah, honestly, just looking at it as a sales cycle, like I think that just really changed everything. It's like you can't just expect money to fall in your lap. It's like you actually have to prepare. And then I think just having a network there of a cohort, just of other founders, yourself, to be able to ask questions of things that we hear. It's like, okay, what does this actually mean? Or deciphering emails and deciphering code like during pitches. And so I I think those two things are probably the most just invaluable from the program.
What was the outcome? Like, how did it impact your execution of the fundraise? And then tell us a little bit about what you were able to do with that right after you say.
Yeah, so I did the cohort in January, and we closed the 2.1 and announced it in September. It was a little bit different, but I don't think we would have been able to get 2.1 if I didn't go through the cohort, because I was able to find at least 100 funds that made sense for us through the go-to-market process for fundraising that we teach. There's a lot of lines of red in that Google sheet of no's, but like 6 lines of yes, and that's just gonna be normal. But no, I was infinitely happy with what I was able to learn. That outcome as well.
The last thing I'll ask, and I like obliquely reference this, but I tell people, like, between my career as a venture capitalist and advisor and now running just Adamant in the Fundraise with Confidence cohorts, I've been in and around and helped people raise like over $250 million. Do you know what one of my favorite outcomes of all this work has been? Can you guess?
What? No.
The fact that you and Christine and a couple other people in the cohorts are homies, like, fuck. I
Actually,
love that. Like, that's the best thing. It's the best thing.
yeah, that's so funny. I will touch on that. Christine is like one of my people now. Like, there's only a few people that I really hang out with. And Christine is one of them. And
you met her in the program.
And I met her in the program, and it's just so funny, like, just like my tribe of people up here in New York. But yeah, that is a really good point, dude. Like, I feel like Christine is like one of my best friends now. So I'm like, oh my God, how do we meet?
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely going to cohort to like find friends is a positive consequence.
Jason muted again.
Thank you. Okay. Those 2 interviews, which happened, like, Tiffany's was literally at 9 a.m. this morning. Al's was last night. Just trying to get some raw reactions and feedback around what they experienced, especially as founders who had done it at an earlier stage. There might be some people on this call right now who are actually later stage and want to hear that from a later stage founder. And I'm happy to pull that together if that would be helpful. But let me give it a little bit more color. The question that was asked was around, how relevant is FWC to the different series, and is there a sweet spot? So what I would say is, I think Fundraise with Confidence is most applicable to the way we've built it for Series A and before. And it isn't to say that if you were a later stage firm, you wouldn't get a lot out of what I do. It's just that the way we built the 5 modules has meant that, like, as you're going through each module with us, you're doing the stuff. And the goal is, at the end of that 5 weeks, if you had to, you would have everything ready to go and you could hit go on like an actually organized fundraise. When you get to Series B and beyond, that sort of preparation effort ends up being a little bit more analytical and tactical around numbers and reporting. Data rooms become a little bit more intense. And so we would probably have to bolt on a later stage module in order to make that appropriate. Everything else is quite applicable to pre-seed, seed, Series A. It's a lot about understanding who you're selling to, who you're pitching, and making sure you understand that from the buyer's mindset and from a first principles perspective. And then it's a lot about how do you create the warm-up process, and then grabbing the lists and mapping the lists and all that work, no matter if you're pre-seed all the way through seed and Series A, is fully applicable. So that's our sweet spot. Let me go back to this. Quick question was, can you buy basic and upgrade later to essential? It's a good question. I hadn't even considered that. This is the first time we're doing this lower package. And so our answer is that, yes, you can. You can buy basic and upgrade to later to essential at any time, but we will not prorate it. We won't change the pricing for you. If you have cold feet and you kind of want to start at basic, fine. But we're not going to change anything. And what I'd say is if you come midstream into the essential, you're going to miss a lot, and you'll probably miss a lot of the connections of the cohort that we attach. But if you end up buying now and decide later to upgrade, that's completely fine. Next, what is the schedule? We talked a little bit about this in day 3, but some of you might not have seen that. Let me just make sure. Okay. So it starts the week of the 12th, September 12th. And this is high level where we will be pushing most of our time. So there are 3 things that you need to know about. They are the live for the essential package and beyond. It's the live lecture and exercises. You'll get your materials over the weekend to consume and be prepared for class. But Tuesdays, we will at 10 a.m. Pacific time, we will meet and I will run the session. The point of the session is not to regurgitate the things that were in live lecture. A lot of live cohort-based courses you'll see is just like somebody kind of presenting slides to you, which I've gone through trainings on education and stuff. And if you can watch it recorded, you should just watch it recorded because it's more efficient. What we do in the live sessions and say, okay, here are the concepts that we talked about. Let's add some nuance to it based on who's in the room. And then let's make sure we do some live exercises. We'll do breakout sessions. We'll have founders go into groups of, call it 4 to 8, depending on how many people we have. And they'll do some things together, and then we'll come back to the full group and we'll actually share and pick that apart. So add a lot of nuance to those live sessions. Thursdays are open office hours. So as you go through more of the content, questions come up. Some people are already engaging with investors or trying to warm up things and they have open questions. This is where we try to push most of the open questions so that the whole cohort benefits from the answers. So the whole point of this is that we push off any kind of one-to-one requests on me, and we do it so that everyone gets the benefit of a great question and a great answer. Throughout the week, we've partnered with Flow Club. You can check out that website, flow.club. Really, really awesome service. I mentioned this before, but incredibly important for fundraising tasks, which falls into this bucket of tasks that are essential, but not urgent. So like there are all these things that I'm going to say, like, for example, I'm going to say, hey, we are going to map your network. And that is kind of an annoying process to go through. You got to like figure out who's in your LinkedIn, got to figure out who you've emailed before, who's willing to make an introduction, who you could email for a favor. And kind of don't have to do it today. Like Bree, you don't have to do it today. You could probably do it tomorrow. You could probably do it the day after, but because it is really, really important, the only way to get that done is if we schedule time for it. And so we're going to be doing this alongside Flow Club, scheduling time to get some of these tasks done throughout your week. And those can be done at any time because Flow Club has sessions 7 days a week, almost 24 hours a day. And then beyond that, we will have the modules released every week so that you can get that content done. And that is your schedule, and we run for 5 weeks. Any questions on schedule before we move on?
Shira had a question about how long are the video lessons and how many is over 25, I believe.
Yes. So the reason it's over 25 is we have a bunch of the content already created, but each cohort is different. And so we react to what we're hearing from the cohort or who we're seeing in the cohort and what they need in terms of the additional materials. So it isn't exactly a number because there may be a request for a certain type of content that we haven't produced yet because it's kind of narrowly focused, but happens to be more applicable to the group. Videos are are anywhere from 3 minutes to, I think like the longest one might be 12 minutes long. But they're meant to be digestible. They're meant to be like very topic specific so that you can do a few, you can get it, you can come back to it later and you don't have to feel like it's like 25 minutes or 45 minutes. Anything else? Great. Let's see. Okay. What about people raising right now? And overall, what is the ideal timing of the program versus when you raise? So independent of Fundraise with Confidence, the ideal for anybody, 100% across the board, no exception. The ideal for anyone is that you prepare for infinity time and then you go raise when you need to. Like, so the more preparation you put into it, the better the fundraise will be. The longer you have to meet people, the better it'll be. The more that you have to create credibility and traction, the better it'll be, right? So, but that's not the situation we're in. The situation is that you're going to have deadlines, you're going to have milestones you want to hit, you're going to have hiring plans. So the minimum for me is that you go through the program, and the idea is that with an intense 5 weeks, and we're telling you things to do, that at the end of the 5 weeks, you should be able to hit start on a fundraise. And start on a fundraise is when you like launch that sort of calendar density thing where it's like, all right, all the outreach happens, we're going to start scheduling meetings and the fundraise will happen. But I think a lot of the success that we've seen is people that started fundraise or started the program, thought they might raise, they might kick off their raise a week after. By going through the program, they were like, wow, there's a lot to do here. We could be doing more. We could add more to this list. We could, you know, get to another milestone, change our narrative, and have decided to say like, actually our fundraise will kick off a month or two after the program. So I think some of you will want to fundraise as soon as possible, either because you have a gun to your head or, you know, you're just anxious. And, you know, coming out of the program mid-October, you'll have that last push to go fundraise. I think the ones that will be will feel the most comfortable will be ones that can do the program, can keep preparing, and then gear up for a Q1 fundraise. I think both of those are great. And then a big portion of the people that go through FWC are like, oh, like some of these concepts make sense to me. And they, you know, they wait 9 months to go raise. And those are great fundraisers. So it's kind of across the board. What about a Q4 fundraise? Shira, can you tell me or give me a little bit more color around that?
Yeah, so I know we've been like chatting over email. I appreciate that. You know, we got an investment from Live Nation. We haven't announced it yet. Want to play off that momentum sort of in, you know, what was discussed. I want to hire. It really has to do with the hiring plan. It's not anxiety. It's not a gun to my head. We have some runway now. We need to hire some, you know, developers and just get for the milestones we've set and the goals that we've set and the expectations we've set with Live Nation, which they're not holding a gun to my head either. But, you know, it's just, I feel that we have the momentum. I have put prep in. I have target lists. I have my pitch down. I've been through an accelerator. I'm very comfortable pitching. Not to say I can't, you know, improve, but for me, like my challenge has been structure, process, and focus, because I'm also running the company, right? So yeah, like I had this plan to kind of go in hard after Labor Day and potentially announce Live Nation. You know, they're going to get us a top tier outlet to announce, thinking that would sort of help, you know, grow the FOMO and grow the excitement. But I know you mentioned, oh, better to not announce and kind of act like they're part of that announcement, which I think is interesting. But yeah, I feel like that we have this momentum. Now people are writing back to my emails. They're writing back real quick. Like the meetings are lining up. I know I need more of them, you know, but like, I just feel like there's momentum going, and like, why wait? Like, I want to get through it so I can hire and build.
If you have all that ready to go and you have lists and you're telling me you prepared, then go. My answer is never. You can't raise without us. And that's kind of like the last answer, the last question. Can you do this yourself? I mean, you've done a lot. You have really good credibility with Live Nation. I would just say, like, if someone tells me they've prepared and they say, we have a couple meetings coming up. Kind of like is in conflict in my head. Like that doesn't feel like there was a lot.
Right. I haven't done massive outreach. I've been working really on warm intros, and I have the list, but it's not like I've been I've tried and get some warm intros. Has been a huge challenge because people tell me, yes, we'll give you the warm intros. And then for whatever reason, the warm intros don't come, whether they forget, whether these people don't opt in, you know, so maybe I'm not following up enough. I don't want to harass them. I got other shit going on. Maybe I forget to follow up. So that's,
yeah. So let me give you my, like, this is part of the program and I'll just give it to you right now. Your problem is that you need to manage it. It's a project management task.
yes.
Many founders believe that it's not, and they're like, we asked and they didn't give us this thing. Well, do you know what my answer to that is? You ask again and you ask again. You're in all of you right now, you're going to go fundraise. Many of you, although sure you've got some spiciness to you. Many of you have probably run your life in a way where you're like really great about not bothering people and like aren't in people's faces or whatever. But you've lived your life in a certain way up to this point to be able to cash in those chips. Like fundraising is shit tons of favors, shit tons of following up, and not, being apologetic about asking for the things that you need in this very, very moment. There are strategies to make yourself feel better about that, which, we go over in the sessions. But for now, sure, if you're going now right after Labor Day, you got to go after the people that have said that they would help you and make sure that they know you're following up. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
Cool.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Let's see, Rob.
Yeah. Hi, Jason. I'm sort of a spin on Insurer situation. I'm already in the process. I feel like the plane has left the ground, so to speak, and there's clearly room for improvement in recognizing the process can be executed better. So what I'm really interested in is moving forward with the basic program. I really like the idea of the videos, but I'm just wondering where I can use some extra help. Can I get to those videos and tools sooner? Not suggesting that I'm going to not participate in the 5 weeks, but if there's something in module 3 that I can use sort of today to help unlock a conversation, I really would like to be in a position to be able to do that. So I wanted to understand what the process is around that.
Yeah, we can talk offline. Likely, I'm not excited about doing that for a couple of reasons. One, the materials build on each other, so cherry picking, how you close without like actually going through the whole thing isn't my ideal way of building somebody up to understand how to do this. And like, I also don't want to ever sell the perception that like this could be a band-aid or this could like help fix something that I'm in the middle of. So like, Rob, you're halfway, 30% through your process and you're like, oh, fundraise with confidence. He has a program, he has information. And by the way, module 5, we talk about data rooms and whatever. I'm going to get to there because I think like, to me, that sets both of us up for failure. Like you're going to have an expectation that my program may not be able to solve for because it's actually here to help you prepare for the future. So let's talk offline. I don't want to like say no, but that's kind of my framework for thinking about these things. We have a lot of the content ready to go. And like I said, we record them as we see other things develop within the cohort.
Thank you, Jason. Lastly, the guarantee, just for peace of mind's sake, does that apply also to the basic program?
Yes.
Okay. And we're at we're coming into the closing stretch here of your 5 o'clock Pacific time. I'm on the Eastern time. If you want to follow up offline, happy to do so. What would be the best way to do that? So you can still participate in some of the, the little bit of the promotion opportunities that's available.
Yeah. Why don't you email me the open questions? So right after this, we're actually going into a series of meetings. I don't actually know how much one-on-one time I'll be able to give you, but please do email me afterwards and we'll see what we can do. Okay.
Okay. I've already emailed you before, so it's already there waiting for you in your inbox.
Amazing. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Let me just make sure okay. I guess we touched on this. So like the last question that was sent in was, and I did have a spiel about this. could I do this without FWC? Let me talk a little bit more about this. So again, I just want to make sure people don't think about Fundraise with Confidence as like, you can't raise without Fundraise with Confidence. With it, you will. I disagree with both of those sentiments. Thousands of people, 3,000 startups get funded every year. And I've worked with about 100 companies. So clearly that's not the case. And Fundraise with what I know about fundraising is that, one, it's an incredibly lonely thing to do because nobody in your company understands what this takes other than the founder that has to go get this done, the CEO. Not only that, but like your other founder, your other co-founders and other people in the business will be confused about how much time you're spending. And so it's like, oh, you know, Mario you're just sending emails, right? Like, what's the point of it? You know, you're taking calls, like you're saying that you can't actually drive the sales processes forward, or like you can't spend time on that. So that's one thing about the stress of being a solo practitioner in something like fundraising. It's really hard to do alone. So we wanted to create an opportunity to make it like a marathon. Like if you've ever run a marathon or anything along race, it's like a lot of people doing this with you. So you understand that you're not the only one, and that like when it takes a long time to do things, you're not like, holy crap, it's taken me 3 days to figure out how to even list out 100 funds. Am I wasting my time? Is anyone else taking the same amount of time to do this? And then it's not about like, could you do this or could you not do this? I just know that even when I'm building a business right now that is outside my expertise, I know how to fundraise. I don't know a lot about like direct-to-consumer marketing. I don't know a lot about content. I don't know a lot about all these things, but these are the businesses I'm running. When I try to do these tasks that I've never done before, my mind goes to, okay, I could do 5 different things. Which one am I supposed to do? Like, it could be this, 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 and this. And I'll go like research and I'll go talk to people and I'll try to like find the best answer. And then, you know, a week later, 2 weeks later, I'm like, okay, turns out it was option number 3. And I know in fundraising, that's 1,000% the case. And there are answers out there, right? You can follow a lot of experts out there. You have advisors, you might have investors out there, and that's all what people do today. I was just trying to create a program where I was like, if I could put this on rails, and if I could offload the brain damage that I know it takes to actually get this done, make it more efficient, make it more effective. That's what I want to get done. I want to put people in the best possible place to just kind of plug in, have a process here where everyone's like, hey, we meet on Tuesdays, we learn this thing, then I tell you to do this thing, and you do this thing. Next module comes up, I'm like, hey, we're back again. You need to do this thing. Let me teach you how to do it. All right, we're going to do it at this time, so that you can essentially outsource that part of it to someone that you hopefully trust. You guys have to run a business. So to the extent that you can not let that bleed into the time of the limited time you'll have to like run your business while you're also fundraising, like that's a win for me. And then the last thing I'll say is some of the founders that have started Fundraise with Confidence and go through the whole program and learn all these things, some of their answers are that I'm not going to raise money for this company anymore. And to me, that's a win too. So like, those are all the things I'll say on that topic, because I, you know, obviously have some sort of passionate ideas about why I'm doing what I'm doing. But if we have any other questions, I'm going to be happy to jump in that. Bree, I see your hand raised. Or your
Yeah, thanks. So a couple of questions clarifying questions between basic and essential. Okay, so even the for lack of a better word, I'll call it the accountability structure that you're setting up in the essential vis-a-vis, you know, weekly classes with you, et cetera. So is that sort of accountability cadence, or that timeline rather, is that available in the basic package, even if it's just written? Like if there are 25 videos, it's like, hey, you really should do these 3 in week 1, these 8 in week 2, these 4. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so that even if it's self-directed, I
Yes.
sort of know what the cadence is.
Yeah. So it is module driven and
Okay.
exercises. So the first module is about like building a foundation, and that's like your own mental approach to things. And it's also starting to like map your network. And then there are exercises. And it's like, here are the exercises, do the exercises. You can do it all on your own for sure.
Got it. Okay. And then the office hours that are listed in the basic. So that's 5 hours, right? So an hour a week. That Q&A discussion, that's a group discussion, correct? Not a 1-1 with you? Okay. Okay. And then it's also, sorry, in the essential, well, with the exception of deck feedback, which sounds like an asynchronous 1-1 with you, it is that all of the essential is also like mostly group led discussions, office hours, etc. Is that true?
Say it one more time. I'm just looking at it with you. The essential.
Yeah. So on the essential, it looks like the deck feedback looks like that is a asynchronous kind of 1-1 back and forth with you. And then everything else is very class and group focused. Is that still the case anytime there's space time?
Yeah, there's
Okay.
small, exactly.
Got it. Okay, perfect. And then sorry, one more question if that's okay. Sorry, team.
I'm sure everyone's got questions, so this is helpful for everyone.
And this is mostly just because I didn't read the details in the unicorn package, so I apologize, but like just the quick like TLDR from basic to essential to unicorn, what's the one big plus up on each one?
Yep. Okay. So basic has the essential structure for how I think about fundraising, and the content will be delivered the core content will be delivered to all 3 packages. So, but the only time you'll be able to get like sort of nuance is through open Q&A, and that's in group settings. So that's basic. When you get to essential, you start becoming more part of the curation of a cohort that is meeting with me on Tuesdays, where we do small group breakout. I'm jumping in there. We're having people share. I'm reacting to what people are saying. So, Andrew might come away and have to present to everyone and say like, so how do you think about, we talk about like, what are your biggest fears around fundraising? And you and I will talk about it in front of the smaller group cohort. And then there are so within essential, there is the organized networking. So within the cohort that is an essential, we will curate connections between each other to make sure that stuff happens. A lot of this is about building your network so people support each other. And then with deck feedback and pitch practice, this is the first level of trying to get the practice reps in a way that gets you to a better place. You don't get that within basic. And then unicorn is the founder that just wants to have her hand held, his or her hand held a little bit more, some personal time with me. A lot of people do this. When I've never actually done this package before, but mentors of mine who are like, these programs are important and these tiers are important because some of the people actually just want to spend more time with you and build a relationship there. So with unicorn, you get one-on-one time with me, one-on-one coaching calls, actually deck reviews where, I spend time speaking to a camera and telling you what I'm feeling. We're going to extend the period of time after the 5 weeks to a small mastermind with the unicorn group, which will likely, max would be 10 founders, where weekly we will just spend time talking about how things have gone. And then a group dinner, which I've already told the 2 people or a handful of people that are considering the unicorn package that it's not just going to be me, it'll be likely be investors, other people in the community. It'll be a really awesome time. So does that help?
It does.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, let me look at what else. Sorry, I'm just scrolling up. Tiffany. Oh, you know Tiffany, sure. That's awesome. When does the course start, Kaiser? It starts on the week of the 12th. And if anyone wants to raise their hand and speak, that will help me. I'm just kind of going through the chat.
Yeah, Kaiser and Rob had another question as well.
Okay, Kaiser, would you help identify the EdTech focused investors? So this is a good question. This is a question around like, essentially, what do I do in terms of research work? So the work that I do when we get to the section around startup, VC lists or target lists, our team, our program isn't like, Luis, we're going to do this for you. We're going to tell you we're going to show you the process. We're going to tell you how to get the research done. We're going to show you what steps to take, how you find people that are interested in those spaces. We're going to give you some lists. So, we've actually given away a bunch of the lists already to the workshop, but it's going to be incumbent upon anyone that joins the program to actually do the work themselves. So we'll give you the tools and we'll teach you how to use some of the technology, LinkedIn, Crunchbase, et cetera. But beyond that, there won't be this like hand holding around getting to very specific lists that you'd be targeting. This is from Rob, any content that addresses the investor meeting and post-investor meeting. So we definitely talk about live pitching. We practice live pitching. We talk about the feeling or what investors are looking for and why they ask the questions that they ask. What do you mean by post-investor meeting?
If you sometimes investors will say, well, we'll be back to you, or there's another conversation, or how do you continue the enthusiasm, getting them to close, and that kind of the narrative around what happens next and keep them engaged and so forth.
Yeah. So module 5, we talk about the process, and we're going into a really interesting time because processes over the last 5 years have changed, and they're actually like venture capital processes are whiplashing right now. It used to be a minimum 2 to 3 months. 2 to 3 months was like a really fast process. Usually people said budget more like 6 months. Between 2020 and 2022, that went down to and things were happening in 6 weeks, 1 week. And now it's flipping back over. And so what we'll talk about is what these processes look like. And to your point, Rob, you're asking a very specific what to do, what would we do, or what do you do after an investor meeting? What we'll talk about is what is an investor's mindset? Like, what are they looking for and how do they need to feel? And so it'll be different for every meeting you take. Like, there isn't a hard and fast rule that, right after the meeting, you do this. What if the meeting were really, really positive and they were like, I'll tell you what to do, or I'll tell you what I'm going to do. That might be very different from a meeting that was kind of negative. So this goes back to the point of what does it mean to learn a little bit more about the first principles and investor psychology, so that when it gets to a question oh, what do I do after a meeting, you have some of the tools available. But we'll go through things like what does email etiquette look like? What is a bad sounding email versus a good sounding email, and why it sounds like that and why it feels like that. But not so specifically what you're talking about.
No, that's perfect. The email etiquette and the tone and so forth. I recognize the importance, and I presume that's all also part of the videos and in the modules as well.
100%.
Great. Okay.
Cool. Cool. And sure, you just know everybody. Christine's great. Okay.
I met them both through this founder mastermind group that we're part of. So
very cool.
I think Hillary Lynn is going to take your program. She's in it too. It's called the Wolf Pack. It's pretty cool. Brie, I don't know if you're a solo founder, but get at me if you're interested.
Yeah, Hillary's the third chick that was in FWC too, and they're all homies. It's awesome.
Oh, she was already in it?
Yeah,
okay.
Great, yeah.
They're talking about it. We have a WhatsApp group, so they're talking about it. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, amazing group of women.
Oh, cool. I see. Hand raised.
I guess, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, super. Yeah, but I guess, you may have already accounted for this, but I think a part of it, ideal case situation, the founder should be able to determine, whether the investor is a good addition to the cap table. So, I mean, there are specific modalities.
Is that on your side? Oh, sorry. There's like a really loud noise. Can someone mute? Oh, that's you. I can't hear you because there's like this huge noise in the background.
Yeah, maybe just send it through chat.
Will do. Yeah, will do. Thanks.
Hey, while we're waiting for someone, I have one question, Jason. I'm really ready to move ahead here. I like what I'm hearing, but what I really would like to know, is there any way I can access any materials between now and September 12th?
What I would do is I would push you to our list of essays. There's actually a ton of stuff there, but I'm not gonna. I can't. Yeah, I probably won't veer off of the process that we have in motion right now, but I will send you some like resources that you can definitely look into. That makes sense.
All righty.
Cool. And Rob, I'll look out for your email. I'll give you some other color around this. And I'll just give you the quick. One of my biggest hesitations is that you come off as a founder who is looking for a Band-Aid, and I do not want anyone to think that they were buying a quick fix Band-Aid. This is like hey, I want to invest time in making a great fundraise happen in the future, not like I'm in the middle of something. So like, that's why I'm like very quick to be like, you know what?
I appreciate that. And that's great feedback. I just feel like I've gotten whipsawed over the last couple of months with different kinds of advice and different things. And it's just been, as a founder, it's been really very frustrating. I recognize there's a process here. I recognize what, there's, we really have to dedicate time to it. I really do. And I'm not looking for a quick fix Band-Aid, but on the other hand, that's exactly what I'm not looking for, is just something that's going to say, like a list we know is just not adequate to make any progress at all. It requires all the work beyond that, and the strategy and the thinking and so on and so forth. So I'm just trying to navigate those waters a little bit better so that I don't get whipsawed yet again on yet another strategy for trying to make some progress. I can't tell you how many times people said, oh, you're not raising enough, you're raising too much, you're not doing this, you're doing that, you should be thinking here, not there. And it's really been very frustrating. So
I feel you, man. I know
yeah,
I know exactly what you're going through.
Right. So that's really my mindset.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll find your email, and if there's more detail there, hopefully I'll be able to add color, but I appreciate you engaging here. Anyone else? Shira, thank you, by the way. Like I'm excited. You're in LA, right?
Yeah, let's get coffee.
And I know the Live Nation team too. So
You go to Launch House a lot?
I've never actually been, but I was a speaker for Launch House, and they invited me to the house a couple of times, so I know the people there.
Yeah, I was on the fundraising sprint that you spoke at, which was
cool. Nice.
Yeah, so cool.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much for showing up. The open enrollment starts at 5 p.m. That doesn't, that's the deadline is only for these like small little gifts and tiny discounts. But the biggest thing is that when we open enrollment, we're going to hit our 5,000 person mailing list and social media. And so we'd love to see you guys in there beforehand. But if not, really excited to have been able to actually influence the way you think about fundraising, even just a small bit if you're in our workshops. And if you want to keep following along and in or out of the program, I'd love that. Season 3 of my podcast is coming out very soon. My weekly newsletter comes out every week. And yeah, I just try to touch as many founders as I can at scale. So thank you so much for spending time with me.
Thanks. Have a good one.
See ya.
Thanks, Jason. Bye-bye.
Oh, sorry. No, it's not. I don't know if you heard me, but let me.
Sure. Yeah. Is the audio slightly better now? Can you hear me?
It's better, way better. Yep.
Yes. I guess, were you, I guess when you said not really, did you mean that the program wouldn't be relevant if we are hoping to close within the next 60 to 90 days?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of what I was saying to Rob, if you heard that, is very relevant to you. Like you're in the middle of a fundraise and you want to close in 60 days. The program is designed to help someone prepare to launch a fundraise in the future. And so anyone that's coming, we're already in the fundraising process. They fall into a category of like a founder that's looking for a quick fix and looking for a Band-Aid. And that's not what the program is. So if you'd like to go through it to learn to maybe push off your fundraise or the next fundraise, like we'd be very, very excited to have you for that, but not as a tool to close this fundraise.
Well, thank you for making time and answering the question. I mean, I'll definitely give it due consideration and, love to stay connected either way. And, if what we're doing at saveaway.net is piques your interest at all, would love to, love to, stay connected on that in days ahead. So thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much, man. Good luck either way.
Bye now.
See ya.